All right, this is my final project for Dr. Wen's Ed Tech class. The instructional content I'm designing for this digital learning experience is for a ninth grade global history class. The unique needs this challenges is how can we make history fun, exciting, but also applicable to the modern day. The specific time frame granted is typically a period of 45 minutes worth of instructional time, and I feel like that's pretty standard at the kinds of schedules most school districts have. So this is something that you can do in one day, do a lot of good discussion work on, and then receive student feedback based off the Padlet I have assigned later. And this brings us to the learning goals. My purpose in creating a lesson like this is to find a way to teach history that is attention grabbing and interactive, but one that's also revolved around discussion. So some of our learning goals we have are defining industrialization and effects on Britain, gain knowledge on early British geography and resources the region has, and improve critical thinking. The specific knowledge I want learners to take away is Britain's role in the birth of industrialization and how it radiates into the rest of the world. I will know they've achieved these goals by posting a discussion in the Padlet that's later assigned that sort of takes the key ideas and central themes we study in this lesson and sort of allow them to do their own little research project on it and bring it all together. So, start the lesson. This is British industrialization, and we're going to start with the quote of the day. This is a way to sort of get students focused, get them engaged, and this sort of serves as a transitional piece. But a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Marcus Garvey. So, define industrialization. This is going to be one out of a few key discussion pieces that I'm going to have in this lesson. Um, but students are going to turn to a peer next to them. They're going to take out a piece of paper and they're just going to write a few ideas on what they think industrialization should be. After 5 minutes, we'll turn around, we'll convene, and then I'll give them my definition of industrialization. And the definition I have is the process by which an economy is transformed from a primarily agricultural one to one that is based on the manufacturing of goods. And what I'm going to have here is a little crash course. Um, Let me exit this so I'm able to show the video. Obviously, for time's sake, we won't have time to show the whole video, but this is a little informative guide that allows students to be engaged and also get
Hi,
some
I'm John
information.
Green, and this is Crash Course European History. So we're going to turn our attention today to the Industrial Revolution, one of the most significant in
So as we go through, if this ever hits load.
history, when European industrial production is said to have begun. Europe's population was growing after centuries of nonstop wars.
So this video gives us a lot of like the broader themes, ideas, and concepts, and I specifically modeled it this way because they can even go in the video and skip the different points to see what their thoughts may be. But for time's sake, I won't be able to show the whole video, but it talks about European industrialization in the broader sense, and the goal is that after we define it, we can sort of take a little bit of a broader look, see a lot of the broader applications and uses, and then after this video, we could start a discussion that allows us to hone it in, isolate, and center on Britain. So this video gives them a lot of good background knowledge, a lot of good resources to work with, and a lot of ideas that allow them to get their brains thinking on how this impacts Britain and the kinds of machinery inventions that they will use. So after the video, we have this slide. What makes England different from other European countries? Think geography. So what makes England different from the rest of mainland Europe? And once again, students are going to pair with a partner next to them, maybe write down a few reasons on a pen and paper, and just give me just a few dots, a few bullets, a few central ideas that they may think on what makes it different. After 5 minutes, we'll sit down, convene, and then I'll segue into the next slide. And the first slide I have is isolation. Britain's island geography provided a level of natural protection from potential invasions or conflicts that affected continental Europe. The English Channel, North Sea, and Atlantic Ocean acted as natural barriers, allowing Britain to avoid large scale land wars that were more common on the continent. The next thing we have is abundance. England is home to plenty of natural resources. These are coal, iron, water resources such as rivers and streams, harbors. We also have limestone, timber, and clay. So on top of being an isolated body where we don't have to work on involving ourselves in other European wars or policing our borders, we have that isolationist nature on top of having a plethora of resources. So these two factors alone are enough to get us there, but there's one more reason that we need to understand why British industrialization happened first in Britain the way it did, and that's stability. Compared to many European countries, Britain experienced relative political stability during the Industrial Revolution. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 and the subsequent establishment of constitutional monarchy provided a foundation for political stability and fostering an environment conducive to economic growth and innovation. So, on top of being separated, on top of having all the resources, um, and on top of having innovation, their government itself was relatively stable. If we go to mainland Europe, the French Revolution's happening. The French are killing each other. The government is turning on the people are turning on the government. Everything is splitting and going into chaos. But Britain is left being away from all of it because they don't have to deal with it. And it's these three reasons that allow Britain to thrive the way it did. And this brings us to our concluding activity. Between each three slides before I introduce them, I'm going to prompt students, I'm going to ask them what they think these reasons may be. And then they'll sit down, they'll contribute, discuss, and talk. And then when I introduce those slides, I'll sort of take their ideas and meld it all together. But once we got these three reasons, this brings us to our concluding activity. So join this Padlet link and do the concluding activity from homework discussed in class evaluation standing. So this assignment is called British Industrialization, and this is a little example post I did, but research a place in early Britain and discuss its role, impact on industrialization. Talk about how this relates to the lesson. So for example, natural abundant resources. In Manchester's case, they had a thriving cotton industry. This allowed the town to industrialize and expand in ways we didn't see before. So the goal is that at least for this assignment, they'll do research on their own and they'll take one of the three reasons and they'll sort of research a piece of Britain and allows them to sort of that research alone will help them amalgamate a response that sort of brings together everything they've learned and it helps them build fluency in the topic that we are talking about. Um, and going forward, I feel like what this does is it between every post each student makes, it forms a map of Britain's regions and the geographical significance that allowed them to prosper. So this forms an entire map for students to study that they could use as a study resource for the next test, their own study guides and example lessons. But I feel like this lesson does a really good job at student participation because I don't like my lessons to revolve around having a million slides because I just think, at least for ninth graders, after 25 minutes of talking, they're simply not able to maintain focus. And by giving them breaks, giving them time to talk, and by having transitional activities, like giving them time to talk about isolation and then building into the isolation side allows me to constantly keep the wheel turning, but also and going forward, I feel like incorporating strategies like that with things like Padlet, um, and there's so many other educational resources for history. I feel like we could really transform the educational landscape, especially when it comes to teaching history. And this is my lesson on British industrialization. And I feel like, given the nature of my content, I feel like the Padlet lesson informing a visual map, a visual aid in comparison to just reading paper on a book forms a lot better of a diagram for students to study and learn material off of. And by having mixtures of like lecture content, videos, slides, activities, discussions, we're sort of able to take the best of all worlds and create a learning environment that is the most productive and efficient we can for the time frame that we have to teach material in time for the region. And thank you so much for watching. This was my slide, and I hope you enjoyed the content I had to deliver.